wait for it. I thought it was going to start counting, but so most people train their body, but ignore the organ that protects it. The skin is the largest organ, and today we're breaking down how health, recovery, and what you put on your skin and in your body directly affect longevity. And to cover this with me, we have a special guest. We have Michelle. Michelle, thank you, by the way, for taking the time to join me. I'm going to take a moment to just like introduce you or like allow you to introduce yourself, but I figure we'll cover what we're talking about, the strategy for today. And also I wanted to plug your shop here locally in Asheville, North Carolina. So if anyone is in the Western North Carolina or in the Asheville area, Michelle's actually like live streaming and doing this right from her shop. So I'd love for you to talk about that. Also, you're going to be joining us in Joshua Tree, California for our next lifestyle retreat, February 4th to the 10th. So with that being Michelle, please, I'm going to kick the microphone and the stage to you. Please introduce yourself and kind of where we're at, and then we can dive into actually our topic for the day.
Okay. Well, so I'm a holistic health practitioner, and my training really has come from going to the American College of Healthcare Sciences. They are an amazing school that's been around for over 40 something years. And so I got my degree there in complementary and alternative medicine. I decided to specialize in herbs. And of course, we know essential oils come from herbs, and essential oils can be very therapeutic for the body. What's really interesting is that, well, I can go into more of that later, but as far as who I am, I took that knowledge and created a skincare line. So a lot of different body products for really all ages, men, women, pregnant ladies, teenagers, kids, even babies, and hope to have some coming soon for pets. But yeah, so I'm the owner of a skincare line and an author of a book called Homicide by Hygiene. And I work alongside a chiropractor and functional neurologist, and I do consultations with some of the patients that he refers to me, but also helps him in utilizing some equipment really to help therapeutically with many patients. So inside my location too, we do some of that. But yeah, that's why I'm a holistic health practitioner and Integrative Nutrition Health Coach, because nutrition also plays a lot with your skin and your health ultimately. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and again, we can I appreciate your pause to dive into, because we're going to dive into some great stuff I'm really excited about, from again how we can start to look at what we're putting on our skin, how to decipher between ingredients. That was one of the things that we were actually on a call the other day with some of the hosts for the health retreat, talking about the value of being aware of what we're putting on our skin, what we're putting in our body. And I'll be honest, the thing that I always think about, especially from the male perspective, is I didn't really pay a lot of attention, honestly, until maybe the last couple of years. And even now I'm still learning about how we treat our biggest organ, which is the skin, and how I take care of it with whether it's lotion or exfoliating things or different things. And one of the things I actually have pulled up is not only here on this stream, I also have an Amazon stream going up over here. And one of the things I thought we could save to the end, if you guys want to stay tuned, and we'll see if we have time, Michelle, and how you feel about it, is I have some products that I've used in the past, and I'd love to go over, compare them to the ones that you have, because I know that you have some great stuff and purposely and very intelligently and intentionally picked out those products and how we can approach some of those things. So I thought that'd be fun. But what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to also screen share. I kind of prepped a little presentation here. We're going to talk about not only these topics, but also some of the data along with that gives us a reason of why we care about this. So I'm going to pull up our presentation here. And also, if you stay tuned to the end, you're going to find out more about not only my information, but also Michelle's as well, for her store, for her website, for social media, and all that fun stuff. So first, again, health and longevity, why daily care matters. I think it's a great opportunity for the day-to-day aspects of our skincare. Again, I just started even using different skincare products very recently, and even building my daily routine around that. And the thing we talked about before was the impact of skin being our largest organ. And I'm going to kind of reference again another data point I think is really interesting. Not only that with skin being our largest organ here, which we talked about, but also an interesting data point around some of the impacts stress can have. So stress can slow down skin repair by up to 40%. And if you guys are interested in the citations where I'm getting this information from, I have citations for all of this. We're going to put it up on the blog post. But just to keep that in mind, stress can impact how our skin even repairs itself. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do, Michelle, I'd love to hear from you, like your even just perspective. You mentioned this the other day. Again, our skin is the largest organ of our body and can be not only a barrier to keep us health from external threats, but also an absorption component. So it protects us as well as it's absorbing nutrients, substances, and things we put on it, which is why potentially harmful chemicals can be so impactful and why we want to be aware of that. So I kind of want to kick it to you, Michelle, to like just elaborate maybe potentially on that. Maybe this is where we can dive into how you even selected some of the things that are going in your products and that you put on your skin.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, all these things that you're mentioning and that you have there in the in your slideshow there. It's really a protection for us, our skin. When you have little cracks in your skin, when you've got dry skin, those little cracks are actually practically like cuts, you could say. And they do allow debris, pollutants, all kinds of things to enter. So a person may not think it's a big deal to have dry skin because they don't actually have these big gouges, these cuts actually. But having dry skin allows for a lot of bacteria, a lot of bad things. So if you want to actually help your immune system with less to fight and you want to keep yourself healthy, you want to make sure that your skin is moisturized and that you have a great barrier, because people can get more they have more exposure to bad things and they can get ill and sick just because their skin is letting in bacteria and viruses. Hence why we wash our hands, right? Because you're trying to get rid of these things that are getting on our skin. Well, don't have these little minuscule cracks all along your skin that allow this stuff in either. So it's very important to actually use some product. I don't think using a lot of product is good, because you do need to allow oxygen from the air into your pores. You want the vitamin D from the sunlight. So you have to be careful with not only what to choose, but how much to choose, and of course, what to choose. But yeah, it's absorbing too, like you said, nutrients, because there's so many things that contain vitamins and minerals. And we need those vitamins and minerals that come from these foods. If you look at the different oils that we use, avocado oil, coconut oil, they're coming from foods. These foods contain those amazing nutrients and minerals that we need, not only for our skin to maintain its health, but to get inside of our bodies and give us nutrients too. And that's another reason why it's a good idea to use some skin products also, because we are lacking so much these days in what we need. We can actually get some of it from our skincare. Yep.
That's one thing. I'm going to jump ahead actually a few slides really quickly. We talk about stress, and we'll get back to that, recovery and sleep as well. But this is a really impactful one that is, again, from the Journal of Dermatology. And again, I think it just highlights what you're talking about, is choosing what we're putting on our skin very like wisely and intentionally. And again, maybe not overdoing it. And tell me if I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying, but like still having a handful of selective things that will care and nurture our skin. And that's something I've talked about in past kind of episodes and talking points, is consuming in general, what we're consuming and how it nourishes us. Not only our food, but even like media consumption, entertainment consumption, but even what we're consuming with our skin, right? Whether it's like sun exposure, whether it's weather exposure, whether it's even, again, the products that we're putting on it and the ingredients that go along with it. I wonder, and you mentioned something that kind of like blew my mind the other day, actually. So we were talking about on this call, you know, like obviously there's certain things that you could say, okay, we know maybe certain chemicals aren't going to be great to put on our skin. And they put it in for a variety of reasons, whether it's preservation or like scents, or I'm not sure other reasons why. But even if it does say natural, there may be, even in those natural ingredients, things that may not be totally natural. So I'd love to hear like even your thoughts on that, and some things that we can maybe be aware of for people that are navigating this, not only for your products, but like even if someone's like watching on Amazon, they're shopping things, how can they be aware of what, or maybe what to look for is a better way to word it.
Oh, sure. And, my work is not to get people to buy from me really and for me to make money from this. It's to bring awareness. And that's why I wrote the book, Homicide by Hygiene, because it's a guide so that people can, whether they buy my products or others, they can have a way to decide what's best for them and what's healthy out there. So yeah, I have looked for products for myself for many years. I used to have eczema actually growing up. I haven't had it in like 8 years since I learned what I've learned, but it's tricky, and it's not only external, but it's internal. And you have to, well, it's practically impossible to find truly clean products out there because, like I said, things can be labeled as natural. You look on the back, and guess what? Everything's natural. I mean, I've counted like 15, 18 ingredients in one product, with the exception of one ingredient that happens to be a synthetic preservative. And a lot of times that synthetic preservative is phenoxyethanol. Phenoxyethanol is known to damage the brain and spinal cord, involving inflammation. And in fact, the FDA at one point in time had recalled a nipple cream, the phenoxyethanol exposure to the baby, and they were having some major health issues. And then the FDA ultimately said, well, as long as you stay below this certain percentage a day, then your body can handle it. You'll be okay. Well, guess what? They put phenoxyethanol in a vaccine. I won't say every vaccine, but what they're not telling you is that phenoxyethanol can be bioaccumulative. So over time, it actually builds up in the body. You're not just dealing with a certain percentage every day. The next day, you're actually dealing with a higher percentage. And they've got it in this vaccine because they know it's going to stay in the body so long as a preservative to keep this vaccine working for you that long. And I won't get into vaccines at all, but I'm just showing that phenoxyethanol is a preservative that will stay in the body, and it wreaks havoc on you. And they say statistically a man will use about 7 or 8 products a day, a woman maybe about 11. So you take, let's say, out of those 7 to 10 products, and 8 or 9 of them have phenoxyethanol. Do you really think that putting them together, even in that one day, that you're going to stay below that minuscule percentage? It's just crazy. So very bad. It's considered a neurotoxin. And there's actually, probably in my book, the most I spoke in reference to one ingredient happened to deal with phenoxyethanol. It's even in foods. It's in all kinds of makeup, all kinds of skincare, hygiene, and like I said, a lot of the natural products. So very important. You can easily, I've told someone just days ago, I said, a very quick way to look at a product and know if it's good or bad is look for phenoxyethanol. That one ingredient shows up in so many things. You don't have to look at anything else. Just look at the bottom part of the ingredients. And if you see phenoxyethanol, you know it's trash. Very quick way to make a choice.
Yeah, so I want to highlight that. I think that's such a huge, and I'm even gonna like pull this out to just like emphasize this, is being able to, and I appreciate you giving us that like one clear potential action. But one of the things I always invite from podcasts or any kind of content is like, hey, what's one thing we can walk away from? And that's something that's jumping out to me, is looking for that specific ingredient to highlight it as an opportunity. Like, hey, this can be like a filtering process. And again, while you're saying, Michelle, and I'll throw it back in here, you're not necessarily doing this just so I will like just positively. I've been to your shop before. I've been to your location, and not only for the products that you have, but also for the equipment that you have too. And you talk about even some of the neurotoxin components of it, working with like Dr. Wallachy, and even as someone that's like been able to collaborate with you on the corrective exercise side, and someone that's interested in just like brain health and neuroscience and working in the ADHD space, but also in like having to deal with martial arts and fighters dealing with head trauma. I think if we can try and mitigate as much as possible our exposure to neurotoxins wherever possible, that's going to just be in our favor. And then one of the other things that I'm going to kind of like slide back to in our slide deck here is talking specifically about stress and health, but with skin health and like inflammation in general. This is something that kind of like jumps out at me. And I'm curious your thoughts. This not only from the skin exposure side, but you also mentioned your background in nutrition as well, what we can kind of put into our body and being able to kind of nourish it from that capacity. But even in our day to day, I think there's a lot of opportunities. And how do we manage stress? Whether it's with exercise, whether it's meditation, journaling, these are things that I've like explored in different topics. Breath work. We literally just did Carrie and myself with one of our guests that's actually going to be at the retreat and one of our influence partners. We just did a yoga session just to be able to get some movement. So things like that can be really impactful. So I wonder, even for you, when let's say life gets stressful, because we all deal with stress, right? I know that like you can relate to that, right? What do you find helpful, not only with your skin kind of care routine, but also for your own self? What do you find helpful from like the nutrition side to movement side? What kind of works for you there and managing that inflammation?
Well, fortunately, being so passionate about nutrition, I happen to enjoy cooking. So when I want to de-stress a little bit, I'll actually spend some time cooking, and hopefully I have the time. So I've been, you could say, a workaholic for quite some time, and it's pretty hard not to be one when I'm working for a doctor and working for myself. But to take care of myself, I have had to cut my hours with my business. And that can be really hard to do because, of course, you want a successful business, but you also want to help people. And you're like, so I got to be there. I got to be there. But I had to give myself time. And sometimes it's just, letting yourself rest. So I sometimes will just let myself rest and relax and really watch a movie because it takes my brain off of things. Something that stresses me is, and I guess you could say good stress and bad stress. It's not necessarily bad stress in a way, but my brain is always going. I have patients that have asked me questions, so I'm like researching to prepare answers for them. And I'm thinking about, my next conversation with that person, or I'm thinking about my skincare. What's the next thing that I might need to make, to help? Or I'm just constantly, thinking. And so to take my brain away from stuff, just watching a movie helps sometimes. I also like to do bath soaks, which is, of course, amazing for not only relaxation, but your muscles and different things. And when you do certain jobs, you stress yourself out and your body out because you're in one position for so long. You really need to help your muscles. But yeah, I have actually just started dancing West Coast swing. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And so I used to actually many years ago, and I forgot practically everything I knew. So I've started West Coast swing beginners classes about a month ago, and I'm doing that once a week. And they say that just 20 minutes of dance one day a week will reduce your pain for that entire week. So it's just, these things you might think you're doing only for yourself to be like happy, but it's also for your health.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that point. From just the honestly awareness and transparency of like, hey, there could be challenges. When I say challenges, things with work that can kind of stress us. And I very much resonate with that from the workaholic side of like going towards that, wanting to be productive or going into that. But also you mentioned a couple things. I'm actually going to pull up on Amazon. So it's going to like make noise for a second here. Echoing that. And the reason I'm saying this is I'm going to stop screen sharing our presentation just for a second, because I actually want to pull up some things on Amazon as well. So you mentioned like taking a bath, and interestingly, actually, I've prepped some things on Amazon related to thought we could look at. So I'm going to screen share actually my Amazon account, and we have some people. Thank you for the follows, by the way, for everyone that are throwing some follows in there. I'm going to message that really quick. And then I want to pull up some of the products that we have here. And I thought it'd be an interesting opportunity because things that come up to me are like Epsom salt baths, which I personally love, but I'm curious your thoughts on things like that, but also like bath bombs and things like that could like potentially have some ingredients we may not want on our skin or in our body. So I thought it could be kind of, if you're okay with it, I'll screen share that. Absolutely. And just put them up to see like what we can kind of learn or gain from this insight. as well. This is kind of like always a fun. And again, when I say these, like these are things that have like brands have, so I'll pull them up. Like this is, as I'm scrolling down here, we have this brand. I'm going to just pull it up. We also have like an Epsom salt one. So this particular one, again, these are companies that have sent me stuff, but like they don't pay me to say anything. I will call them out if there's like ingredients or things like that. So they have their flavors they're calling about. I thought it could be interesting to look at the actual ingredients themselves. And that's one thing that I always find interesting. So we're going to kind of scroll down here to see where we can find the actual ingredients. So they have them listed right over here on the side. And I thought I'm going to open up the screen so you can kind of see it a little bit better. And I'm going to name some of these as well. And honestly, one of the things that attracted me to this particular brand was like, a lot of these things don't jump out at me, but this is where I love your insight as well, Michelle, because like shea butter, for example, cocoa butter, sea salt, and essential oils, I'd like that to me seems okay. But again, I know there's nuances to that as well. And there can be some like information and that they may be even still kind of vague. So I'm curious your thoughts when you see this kind of information as well that I'm like highlighting.
Right. Well, you used a perfect word there, vague, because when you see essential oils at the end, for one, essential oils really should be organic. I know sometimes when you things, you might Google, is it important to buy organic essential oils? And I've seen, information where they said, no, it doesn't matter. But from what I have learned and researched, it does matter. You do end up with chemicals that end up in the plants, hence their essential oils, because of the soil in which they were grown. And so there's, chemicals in the soil, and then you've got that transfer into your body. And a lot of people say, oh, well, oils, they don't really go anywhere but below your skin. Well, that's also not the case. Unfortunately, you have essential oils, especially, they get into your bloodstream. And so one thing about bath bombs, and those particularly, is, let's say, just for heck's sake, that those essential oils were organic.
Yeah.
It's more responsible of a company to list the ones that they use. Because for one thing, when it comes to allergens, specializing in herbs with my degree, I did learn that, and I was surprised to learn, when you're allergic to one plant, you should stay away from all plants in that same plant family, because somewhere in your body does not like that main, what they call a constituent, or that main part of the plant that is why they're grouped together as a family. They all share the same component. And so if a person has an allergy to ragweed, which a lot of people do, well, guess what? They shouldn't do chamomile. Do you know how many skincare products have chamomile in them, or like baby wipes that people use for wiping their hands, or and then they end up with issues, and doctors can't figure out what's wrong. The person themselves can't figure out what's wrong. Well, they're constantly exposing themselves to allergenic things that their body doesn't like for certain reasons. So that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why I would not buy this product, is because it doesn't mention the essential oils that they're using, because it could cause a reaction, an inflammatory reaction somewhere, either on the body or inside. And just because we can't see that we're inflamed doesn't mean that we're not. Doesn't mean that we're not because we don't feel pain, or we don't see hives, or, those different things. So, and the shea butter, shea butter is one of my favorite ingredients to use, but I buy raw and unrefined shea butter, because then you're not destroying any of the helpful parts of the shea butter that really help with the body's skin. Though shea butter, it's not going to hurt you having it like this. You're just not getting the best form of it. And then you want to think about the coloring. So if you look at this too, it mentions special ingredients. It doesn't say ingredients. It doesn't say all ingredients. Just like you'll go sometimes for supplements and it'll say key ingredients. And then when you get the supplement in your home, it's got the other ingredients listed on the back label. So I would say this is not really giving you all of the ingredients, because you also see the different colors. So some color may come from the ingredients themselves, but a lot of times too, especially bath bombs or different products like that, they're going to use colorings, and a lot of those imitation colors or food colors, they actually worsen ADHD. They cause a lot of, neurological problems and health issues. So I would actually have to call the company, too, before I bought something like this and say, hey, which essential oils, are they organic, and where is your coloring coming from?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great point. And this is another one I want to share too. This is just another bath bomb company. This one's even like more vague in general, honestly. And the other, it just makes me think about, that's a helpful point. Is like listed under special ingredients, just says essential oils.
Yeah.
That's a very, again, vague. That's the one thing, like, to your point, I appreciate what you mentioned with even like supplementation, right? Like we can be quite vague, even when it uses proprietary blend, right? And it's like multiple different ingredients. And it says, okay, let's say there's 1 gram total of all the proprietary blend ingredients. You don't know what the ratio is of, let's say it has like creatine and then, let's say caffeine, and like, you could have like all these different things. It could have filler things in it. Also, where is it? It's not regulated by the FDA unless there's particular things that are coming into play and they're going out of their way. And that's why I'm curious. I don't know the regulations as much, even with this type of process. I wonder, like, where, if you have any awareness of like, because I think of the supplement industry, it's not as heavily regulated as like the food, right, industry with the FDA. Yeah. So even in this capacity, like, where does that come to play? And being able to your point, calling the company, asking for those things, where might there be regulation concerns there?
Yeah, so that's something too I touch on a good bit in my book, is learning what to look for when you're looking at labels and companies, because they do have their little tricks. And it mentions in my book how the FDA does allow for things to be labeled organic if it's at least 95% organic. But who wants to play, games with that 5%, with their health? Unless it says 100% organic, you don't really know many times if you're getting a fully organic product. You may be, but you also may not be. And when it comes to skin, it's just so dangerous, because like I said, these things, I mean, I spoke for the Global Scientific Guild. They had me on there, and they had me talking about, essential oils and how they actually get into the skin. And there's a chapter in my book that talks about that too. And I would like to go back really quick, though, also in reference to choosing skin ingredients, because just like the bath bombs that you showed me, I just want to reemphasize that point. Like in my book, I mentioned too, that when you're choosing your skincare, you have to look at what plants are in there, because even if it's natural, and those plants may be great for a lot of people, they may not be great for you. So, like the chamomile, if you've got that allergy to ragweed, you can't do echinacea, you can't do marigold, you can't do a lot of things that you think are normal and okay and great. But again, until a person gets healthier too, they may have a lot of allergy issues. When you get your gut health right, your liver health right, a lot of people's allergies go away. And then guess what? You can use those products. You can do a lot more things. And I also wanted to go back for a moment too with the stress and the skin, because I'm very passionate about chiropractic. So here we were talking about nutrients that we want from our skincare. Well, something that I learned, and I actually started school to become a chiropractor. And the reason why is because I learned that a lot of times you have to hit the source of the issue. If you don't get a person's alignment right, and say they're like hunched over, they're really crushing, you could say, their organs, that doesn't allow the organs to function properly. So if you put vitamins and minerals inside the body, it doesn't mean that your organs are actually going to utilize them correctly, whether you're doing good skin products or you're doing good nutrition. So that's one reason too why in my center I have these different ways to better your posture, with the All Core 360 machine, and working with Dr. Wallachy. who's this chiropractor and functional neurologist, because all of that is connected. And the stress that you have when a person is hunched over, when a person has bad posture, they're in pain because their back hurts. Sometimes, guess what? They sweat more than when they usually would. When you sweat, your sweat contains toxins. Those toxins end up on your skin. If you don't take a shower right away, that your sweat can kind of dry out, and you actually reabsorb those toxins. You're stressing your body out. You're creating a really bad toxic situation actually for your skin. So again, that's important. Oh, and then when I say taking a shower, you also can shower too much. So you can strip a lot of that barrier that we've talked about. So not only do you want to be careful that your products don't contain things that dry out the skin, because shampoos and conditioners, different things actually have drying agents in them, but you want to make sure that you're not showering too much, and you actually can be. So unless you're sweating a lot, working out a lot, and you have a lot of reason to get toxic sweat off of you, you can forego a shower, like every other day, because really you need to keep your natural skin barrier even before you use product. You can't replace product for skin, guys. You can't.
That's such an important. So this is something I've learned more about in the martial arts world, actually, since I got into martial arts, because that's a really impactful one. That's why I wanted to highlight this slide, the daily rituals versus maybe extreme interventions. And this, you talk about even the daily rituals, right? Of our daily routines of showering or different types of hygiene and different components related to that, but being intentional with it. And I'm going to stop screen sharing here for a second. I'm actually going to pull up another product on Amazon and also talk about where I was more mindful of this is, again, as I got into martial arts, I was more aware of skin infections, like staph or ringworm or things like that from jujitsu and wrestling, and learning yes, you can almost overly I've learned from, depending on certain products, you can overly shower and then you actually neutralize, almost like when you take antibiotics, it clears out your gut, and you have to kind of develop your microbiome and your gut flora. Same thing on the skin of having a certain protective film or layer. And there's this one, I'm going to pull this up specifically, as we don't even have to break down the product itself, but I thought it was an interesting one of let's say a big one for me is when I go to martial arts gyms, I like them to have showers, but sometimes when I travel or I would use these different types of body wipes. You mentioned body wipes, and this one even says okay, 100% pure biodegradable bamboo wipes. It sounds great on paper, a tea tree and being able to have aloe vera and all that kind of fun stuff, which I think is great, chamomile, green tea. It sounds good on paper, but I think it could even be helpful to look at, to your point, I hadn't even as in-depth looked at those ingredients. So I think that's sometimes kind of helpful. And this is a product I've used, and honestly, I still kind of use, but again, special feature products. I again, sometimes there's the vagueness of okay, natural ingredients. What does that mean? I feel even that can be potentially vague. I appreciate saying not tested on animals, some of those components of it, but I even to pull this up to share of when you look at stuff like this, what are some of the things that maybe come to mind, whether it's, hey, this is great, or these are things that I look to be mindful of, because I'm just fascinated about that, because this is something I'm even learning more about. And I appreciate your insight and kind of expertise here.
Okay. Well, from what I see so far, this could be potentially a really great product for someone. I did find out a surprising fact through my years of doing this, and found that aloe actually is often a topical, people have an allergy to it topically. So obviously you're fine with it, but some people actually do. And a lot of times I think people don't even consider aloe as the problem in their product, because they have heard so much good stuff about it. And aloe is great to drink for many, but topically it can be a different issue there also. So sometimes it's best just to test one ingredient out at a time and figure out, if you're having issues with a product, break it down, yes, and say, okay, well, I've got this aloe plant right here. Let me take a little bit of aloe, see if that's going to bother my skin. And then I noticed I had green tea in it. And
I'm sorry, I'll bring it back up.
It's okay. So green tea can also be contraindicated with those that have thyroid problems. So the thyroid is one part of our body that particularly is affected by fluoride, and green tea is one of the plants that soak up so much more fluoride out of the soil than other plants. So it's erring on the safer side. If people who have thyroid issues, stay away from green tea products, actually. And then, of course, we already talked about the chamomile.
Yep.
But I mean, otherwise, I mean, from what I see here, I don't see an issue. So
I also
yeah,
just I'm for everyone watching too. I'm putting Michelle on the spot here a little bit. I really appreciate your
yes, you are.
like really hardcore. So again, this is to keep in mind, like this wasn't necessarily prep. So this isn't saying like everything is like a perfect evaluation, right? Like I'm sure if you had more time to like look at the sources and have things to look at, but I just even appreciate like the thing that jumped out at me from even watching you go through this is, okay, yeah, going back to like, hey, what's one ingredient we want to look for? And I'm going to be honest with you, you mentioned it before, it already escaped the top of my head and I didn't write it down. So that's where I usually use my transcription for when I repost this to my blog, we make content out of it. I'm going to save that specific ingredient, but in saying, okay, like we're looking maybe for that. Or again, to your point, like I know my ex, wife had an issue with lavender, for example. And then like being able, you mentioned like, hey, if we have allergies, it may be in that plant family or that root family or in the family of it, being mindful of how that shows up as well. So I just wanted to highlight some of these things and how we can look at those products. And then even going back to kind of the slides of, you know, talking about our daily routines. I appreciate you talked about, you can overly clean our skin or we can overly do it with a shower. Like I remember when I was like 17, I was working out a lot, way more than I needed to. And I was like showering 2-3 times a day and like my skin was getting dry. And that can almost be, again, counterintuitive, but also maybe damaging our skin, right? And damaging the actual protective nature to it. So being mindful again of, yes, consistency is key, but not overdoing it. And then also at the same time, having like gradual improvements and things we add. And I wonder, this is kind of like, again, I'm curious from your experience here, when you look at people building their product line, or when I say product line, when you're building the things that you're putting on your skin, are there any common things that you see people starting with? Like, so for example, I'm just thinking about me. And again, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit. So I always appreciate your like willingness for this is, okay, we're going to start with, let's say I'm making this up, a lotion. I don't know. Maybe it depends. Just like when we would go into like, let's say any kind of evaluation, like, hey, what are some of the health things you're experiencing? I'm sure that comes into play. Like, how do you approach someone walks in the shop and they don't know what to look for, but like, hey, I want to take better care of my skin. How do you approach that?
Well, yeah, one of the first things I ask is, do you have any allergies?
Ooh, okay.
Do you have any sensitivities, you know, to anything? And then, and most of my products actually don't contain a lot of allergenic kind of things. I actually don't use chamomile except in like one baby product. I don't use aloe at all, and I don't use lavender because lavender is highly a problem with those that have like eczema and psoriasis, and many don't know that. So anyway, when somebody comes in, I'm going to ask them, of course, you know, do they have any allergies? And then what are they looking for? You know, what do they want? Do they have a lot of exposure? Say, do they work outside? Because then there's a lot of pollutants and debris. I'm definitely going to try and maybe suggest a cleanser, you know, for the face, for men especially, and you know, for women in general. I think that's something everybody should have, is a cleanser and like a face cream. And then of course, if they're outside a lot, you know, then we might go into the sunscreen, or and sunscreen is a whole nother topic, but oh man, I've got so much I could say about that. But anyway, and then actually if it's a young person, so if they're, say, a young lady who comes in and she's 10 years old, but she's already playing around with makeup and, you know, stuff like that. Well, she might like a perfume that I have, but if I was watching her, I would not have let her try the perfume, because certain levels of essential oils and different things are not healthy for certain ages. So I also have like a sign up, these are therapeutic levels of essential oils. So I'm also going to consider their age too. But yeah, that's I usually don't try to suggest a whole lot of stuff because that's not, like I said, it's not important to me really to try and make a buck off this stuff. But yeah, just try and get a good idea of what they're for, what has helped them in the past. I might ask them, what have you found has worked well with your skin and what hasn't, and then go from there.
Ooh, so do you mind? This is another one I want to play with. So I really, again, I go back to just the appreciation of the insight here because I'm already like learning more from just this conversation. Every time we have a conversation about this, I always take something away. And one of the things I think about too was, I love martial arts. I love exercise. I train pretty much every day. And when I go on the mats, how much I'm training, my volume's gone down in a group class setting. The thing that jumps out to me, because a lot of our audience and the people that follow me are going to be into martial arts and potentially getting exposed to martial arts for both men and women, and being able to probably be like from 25 to 50. That's going to be like the core demographic, potentially getting into martial arts or athletics. When I think about it, especially for jiu-jitsu or even for Muay Thai or boxing, there's a lot of like face abrasions or skin abrasions because we're roughing up against the mat. We're getting, maybe if we're sparring, gloves are rubbing up on us or different things like that. And I know for me, especially after like, going, whether I use my wipes or I shower, like trying to figure out a big one, I might like, this is something I want to personally ask you, even for me, what you would recommend that comes from your shop. So that I can because again, I've talked about this with Carrie. We come in and then for whatever reason, when we have the kids, especially, it always throws a wrench in it, but we still get to come by the shop to get some things. I wonder at your shop, what would be something for me as a martial artist that trains? I don't have any allergens from my awareness. So I don't think that's as much of a variable. Could be helpful because I think about my skin, even my hands right now, they're so dry. And in general, I notice, especially this time of year, so I'm looking for something to hydrate my skin. What would you recommend? And I'd love to personally have you like plug your stuff. Like maybe there's other stuff out there, but I'd rather hear from your shop what you have so we can kind of go through that. Cause I want to support you in general. This is something I'm like literally going to like buy.
Well, thanks. So actually, again, the raw unrefined shea butter is it's absolutely fantastic. It's so simple. It's one ingredient and it helps with over 18 different skin conditions. When you get abrasions, when you get cuts, if you use this shea butter, it's like using a natural Neosporin, actually. It'll not only help with healing, but it also helps heal twice as fast and reduce the possibility of getting a scar. So I love, love, love the raw unrefined shea butter. And then I do have one that incorporates cold pressed grapeseed oil because, for one, the cold pressed, it doesn't destroy parts of it as expeller pressed would, which is what you normally find in the grocery stores. And then grapeseed oil is a fantastic antioxidant. So that means that if you're out in the sun a lot, you're going to want something that can fight, any damage from the sun, and antioxidants do that. So it depends if, you're going to be out and about, what you want to use, but I will say shea butter is very thick. It is like a butter. People might think it will clog pores, but it actually doesn't. But I normally suggest to somebody who's new to using something, or to even you, is use it at night first. See how it feels on your skin before you walk out and feel like you look oily, or also you're giving your skin time to really use that shea butter, and it lasts so much longer than oils and creams and lotions. But if you're going to use it for your hands, you're going to want to wear like some gloves or socks or something over your hands. I think help. You don't have to, but for one, you're going to keep it from getting on your bed sheets, and another thing is you're just going to help your hands a lot better. And then use it at night, even on your skin, on your face. You can put it anywhere on the body, which is nice too. It's antifungal. So when I say anywhere on the body, I really mean anywhere. And if it's accidentally ingested, say one of your kids end up getting into it accidentally, it's not going to hurt them. So it's one of my favorite things, and it's one of the least expensive things you could buy.
Yeah, and that's while we're kind of going through this, I wanted to bring this up for those that are listening and not watching. We're going to have this information below too in the podcast style, a link to Michelle's website as well. I have it pulled up on the screen share, so you guys watching this live. If you're watching on Amazon though, you're gonna have to hop on over. You have all the links and everything, even like this little behind me. You can catch the content, but this is something that I think is just really exciting because, again, I've worked with different brands. They'll send me stuff on Amazon. And I like it. I use it because I have it available. But you've helped me shed a lot of light and awareness to, again, thinking about our skin as the organ. What am I consuming? What am I putting into my body? How am I nourishing that? So I'm really excited to be able to have this. And then the other thing I wanted to plug, because you mentioned your book as well, you can go onto the website and you'll have your book here as well. So anyone wants to be able to get that, get more information, you have this. And then also being able to see where the store is. Also, I'm just like recently able to like see the new website that you have up. So this looks great. So yeah, I just wanted to like plug this and share it as well. And I highly recommend everyone go check this out to, grab either a consultation, being able to get the book, being able to explore these things. I think, again, it's a tremendously valuable resource and insight, and being able to have it and go back to it. And that's why I was really excited. I know this is like, we're just scratching the surface. There's like, we can go into so much. And that's why I was excited to not only have you come on to go into this before we're going into Joshua Tree. We're going to be also having a workshop. You're going to be leading in Joshua Tree for those that are coming in person. We're also going to be live streaming that and getting it out there so we can have more, so that people can also see your products and being able to get that as well. But I know that we're going to have you come back on, honestly, if you're open to it. And what we've talked about, what I'll get to do is bring my actual filming stuff to your store so we can kind of do that. I've already made a video about some of the equipment that you have, like the All-Core, and just the amazing impact.
Yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah, and it was honestly like just scratching again the surface of all of this. But again, I can't recommend enough being able to continuously check out what you have and what Michelle has. But again, I'm like slowly wrapping it up, but we have a little bit more. But I know like what I find, and I've always gotten from feedback from everyone, once we start to get to the 45-minute hour mark, it starts to like get a little bit too much, even though we could go on for hours. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I'm so intrigued and fascinated. I know you have so much more insight we can go into, but I want to like be mindful too for everybody. And I appreciate everyone tuning in. But with that being said, I kind of want to go back to you to see, like, we've talked about the big highlight for me was that one particular ingredient we can go through. Do you mind if you say the name one more time? Cause I'm horrible.
Sure. And I'll spell it too. So it's phenoxyethanol. So yeah, it's PEA. Oh my goodness, I started spelling it wrong. It is PHEN, phen, and then oxy, OXY, and then ethanol, ETHANOL. So phenoxyethanol. It's a long word, but it's very easy to see because it's long when you look on a label. Oh, and one thing about that too, guys, is that I used to buy this one body wash and shampoo set from this one company, and I loved their ingredients. They were awesome. But never stop looking at the front and backs of the labels of everything you buy, because a lot of times, as this company did, to my surprise, they changed their ingredients. And they ended up adding phenoxyethanol as their preservative instead. And I had to discontinue buying it. And they never put on the front of it new look or, like new formula, like nothing like that on the front. So unfortunately, and you were talking about regulations, FDA doesn't really regulate the cosmetic industry. So that's why many people can make all kinds of these little products at home and stuff and sell it. But too, like out in the world, when you're going shopping, companies can do so much and get away with so much. So unfortunately, it puts so much responsibility on ourselves to take the time. And, you may not want help or, to pay for help getting, a consultant. There's so much you can do on your own. But if there's a lot going on and you want help, then pay for it, because it's your health, and you're going to save a lot of money in the end from illnesses that you're going to end up from using really crappy stuff on your skin, trying to save a buck now. I mean, I know how it is to be without money. I really do. But when it comes to your health, ultimately, and if you have any skin eruptions and rashes coming up, I will guarantee you it is internal, It is always a liver issue if you have external things showing up. So it's not just in the skin products, guys. It's internal work too. And I can help you with those things, but others can too, hopefully. It's easy to find one in your area. But yeah, you got to clean it up inside to get the outside great. And yeah, I'm here to help.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Once again, Michelle, you taking the time. And then also, we just had a quick question. Someone popped in a little bit late on this. So for anyone that's because people have been popping in and out throughout, and we have like a couple different things running at the same time. The question is kind of what's this about? And again, like you can go through, rewatch it, but the biggest highlight, and this is why I wrote it down. I appreciate you sharing this, Michelle, because they literally asked this right after you said it. So the biggest takeaway I heard you say, Michelle, is for this, what you're putting on your body, as far as your skin being the largest organ and being mindful of the ingredients, is phenoxyethanol as an ingredient to look for, is something when you're shopping your products to look for that. If it has that in it, and to your point, even if it's been a company or a brand or a product you've been using, constantly check to see what's in it, because they might be updating and reevaluating what they're putting in there. That can be a big kind of signal. I always like to highlight the actionable takeaway. And again, another thing I would just personally say is go to Michelle's website, check out naturalhealthskin.com. Look at not only the book that she has, Homicide by Hygiene, as well as just the services. To your point, being able to invest in the insight related to picking out the products that make sense for you is going to save you in the long haul from your health perspective. Because it's even like talking about, oh, I don't have the money to eat healthy or to exercise, do that. It's like, well, either you make the time and the investment for it now, or your body and your setup is going to make you make it later. And a heart attack is way more expensive, or cancer is way more expensive, or this chronic potential impact on your health is going to be way more costly than where you're at right now. And then also, yeah, just another comment. This is great. Greatly appreciate another ingredient to look for and avoid. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that was helpful as well. But yeah, again, I'll bring it home from here. And what we're going to do, again, I have all Michelle's information here. Please reach out, send her on our website, send her an email. Again, support on social media. I know that's really big. If you're not following already, both here where you're watching this, from Amazon to YouTube to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, please feel free to follow. We'll be rolling this out. We're also going to be editing this, putting up shorts, putting up some long form kind of snippets from this, and putting it on our blog. And then again, Michelle will be joining us in Joshua Tree for our health retreat, the lifestyle retreat. And you guys can actually get remote passes to that. If you want to follow along remotely, we're going to have access to all the workshops, as well as if you're in the California area in Joshua Tree, or you want to come out from Palm Springs or surrounding area, we're gonna have day passes still available. And we also still have there's 5 spots left for our actual overnight. So I'm gonna pause there. Again, I want to kick it back to you one more time, Michelle, to just like share anything we might have missed as far as what you have going on, what you're excited about, where people can find you. And again, I just want to say thank you again and express my gratitude for you taking the time today, especially with everything going on.
Yeah, well, just a quick mention that not only are my products online, but I do have them in store. I know Mike has mentioned a store, or, a wellness center, but yeah, it's in Asheville, North Carolina, which the address is on the website, and you can get it. You can also give me a call directly. I'm happy to talk with you. There's no charge to chat with me. We can have a short 15-20 minute chat and then see the best route to take from there with whatever you're trying to achieve. And just know that Michelle Kolcan cares. That's what I've got on my banner outside to my store, Natural Health and Skin. And then it's Michelle Kolcan cares, because I do. And there's a lot of people, like Michael, he cares too. And that's why he does the things he does. So many people in the health field, we're doing it for not only our own health, but yours too. So just know that I care. And give me a call, and give Michael a call, and we all should help each other in health. And there's so much that we can do for each other. And it's not just my skincare that you'll find, in my store. But very happy to help. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, again, thank you so much, Michelle. So I pulled up the shop. Thank you, everybody. Again, we'll wrap it up here. And again, to be able to follow up any of the information, citations on data that we reference, anything like that, it will be available on my blog when we edit and repost that. Yeah, and then also my mom's saying, she's in the chat as well. Next time she's coming to visit, we're going to have to swing by the shop so she can check out the products. And also, Mom, I'll send you the website as well so you can see. And I'll pick out some things I think that you'll like. I kind of know.
Yeah.
I think that would be like a great, even going back to Valentine's Day really quick, a quick plug for the Valentine's Day holiday, which again, I'm not saying I'm not super into Valentine's Day, if I'm honest with you, but it can be an opportunity to get some gifts for your loved ones, for yourself, to be able to show some self-care. That's the other thing I associate with this type of category is it's a great opportunity for self-care for ourselves, showing ourselves love every day by like taking this action in our life. So I want to wrap it up at that. So we'll bring it up here again. Appreciate everybody. What I'm actually going to do is, if you're okay with it, Michelle, I'm going to take the last 5 minutes. We'll end here, but I'll still keep you on. And then I'm going to keep Amazon open. I'm going to check to see if we have any questions because we have a couple of people still on Amazon. I think they might have some questions related to products. And there's a lot of interest around that I saw. And a bunch of people were following while we were going through this. So I want to give them an opportunity to ask some questions. So maybe we'll take like 5 more minutes here on Amazon Live, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, sweet. So I'm going to wrap it up here. And again, we'll see you guys in the next one.